What is up, everybody, and welcome to my newest challenge video. Today we're playing a game that takes place several decades after the first Shin Megami Tensei game, aka Shin Megami Tensei 2. The story's pretty brief. After the events of the first game, I think it followed the neutral ending. I think that's the canon. Somehow the Messiahs rose to power. Not really rose to power, but somehow they rose to power, even though we completely obliterated them in the first game, but whatever. So what are we doing here in this game? We're doing a no demon run. We're playing on a fan translation because this game was only in Japanese, and we're playing on the hard mode mod, well, hack. So enemies are going to be tougher, and bosses are going to be harder. This is also a blind run, so let's struggle together. Let's get started. Upon waking up, upon starting the game, a man's voice wakes us up. This guy's name is Okamoto. He's pretty much our boss. He pretty much tells us that we're going to be the next champ and we need to get up and get training. So he sends us into the virtual battler. He also tells us how he saved us a couple of months ago and we don't remember who we are. So our character's name currently is defaulted to Hawk, which I think is pretty cool, but we'll be able to change that later on. Inside the virtual battler, all you gotta do is just get one level up, and these enemies can hurt pretty hard. I did get a couple of game overs in here. I just don't know if this is their default difficulty or if it's because of the ROM hack. Because ow, they hurt. They hurt a lot. Anyways, the boss was easy to bring down. Just make sure you get a level up. I actually stayed here and grind for a while until I got to maybe like level 9 or 10, and then I finally finished this place. After you're done in the virtual battler, Okamoto pretty much says, hey, go rest up and have the rest of the day off. He gives us some money and tells us to go explore. Now we gotta go around and trigger a couple of cutscenes to name the other protagonists we'll be encountering throughout the game. Across the road, we head to the other virtual battler. We go inside to level 1 and we encounter a strange scene. We see somebody who looks familiar, so we follow him. Turns out it's Steven who gives us the Demon Sys summoning program. I'm like, nah, dog, I ain't gonna use that shit. But he still gives us to it anyways. What a nice dude. Upon going inside the virtual battler again and wasting money again, we come across this scene where we name one of the NPCs. This person, he's the law hero, I believe. I'm not too familiar. I can't give him the name I want to give him, which is Comment. So I just name him Comment. Comment with only one M. So yeah, make sure you guys comment on the video. I do recommend exploring the town. You can get some pretty funny conversations from the vendors. Nobody will sell to you because your boss Okamoto is a cheapskate. Anyways, the trigger the next scene we need, you go to the northern part of the town and you talk to this fortune lady. She'll tell us to remember someone's name. This person will be the female protagonist. We're going to call her Like with a couple of spaces because I don't know how to end the name with only 4 letters. Yay. If you do some exploring, you can go onto the world map and go to your rival guy's gym. Yeah, you can clearly see the difference. This guy has a full-blown freaking gym with multiple rooms. He's even nice enough to let us use his virtual battler, although it's pretty expensive. I do kind of recommend it because it's pretty worth the experience, but I don't really spend much time here. Also, out on the world map, if you travel a little bit too far in certain directions, Okamoto will show up and yell at you. What he's doing all the way out here just to yell at you is a little silly in my opinion, but I find it funny. Alright, let's finish naming these characters. So going inside of this little room, we can come to this guy. For this character, we named him... Now, it's a little hard to spell this person's name, but we named him Subcrib, because we can't spell the whole world of subscribe. Like, you guys should be commenting, liking, and subscribing to my, my channel. Yeah, right? Yeah, thank you. That sounds like a fair deal. Now, with all those shenanigans out of the way, we return back to Okamoto, who says, okay, buddy, time to rest up and get ready for the tournament. After that, we head on over to the Coliseum. Let's do this. Going north when we reach the Coliseum, we can actually take a trip down the Hall of Fame where we can just see the past champions. And at the very end, we can actually see a statue of the main character from the first game, which is actually pretty cool. Alrighty, now it's time for the championship fight. It's not a fight per se right now. They actually throw us into a maze full of monsters and items. I recommend traversing the outside of the map. Avoid the 2 center rooms because the boss here, I'll get to the boss in just a second. The enemies here aren't hard to kill. They're worth decent experience. They drop items. I recommend grinding them for more levels, and I'm going to explain why here in just a moment. Because remember, we're playing on the hard mode ROM hack. This is no cakewalk compared to the original version of this game, out of what I've been seeing. Alright, heading to the boss, we meet Red Bear. He starts talking to us, but then we daydream. Now we name the next and final protagonist of the game. We call this person... We call them... Negmemi, because they're our opposite. They're like the Chaos protagonists, I believe. But yeah, they're Negamemi. They're negative mem. Alright. Anyways, to the boss fight. Now, for the very first boss fight of the game, Red Bear. What makes this guy so difficult in this ROM hack? In the base game, and I looked up, he only has 67 HP. Doesn't seem bad. But in this ROM hack, he has a kick that can hit you 3 times for like 33 damage. His base attack hits you for 11. And for some strange reason, and I think it's a glitch, he has a spell called Rakukaja, which lowers our increases his defense, but can crash the fucking ROM. And I'm like, what? No! Also, he murders us multiple times in a row. Alright, so after that failure of a boss fight, I decide to grind. I grind a lot of levels. I think I get up to nearly like level 15. I go back at him, he still kicks my ass. He still crashes the ROM. So I'm thinking that there's something just wrong with this ROM I'm using. So I get online, I'm not going to tell you guys how, and I find another ROM, patch it up. My save states work and everything, so I don't have to restart the game, which is awesome. And yes, it doesn't crash the game, and we can actually do this boss fight. He still hurts like a truck, but after a while, I managed to pull the victory out. Whew! Keep in mind, in the original version of this game, he only had 67 HP. This is gonna be painful. Alright, so back with Okamoto, he got a shop upgrade. He completely took over his rival's gym, and his rival is down in the slums now, which is awesome. Turns out the prize money for winning the Coliseum tournament was 1 million Maka, and we didn't get anything from it. Okamoto's a cheapskate. But we have access to every single shop, including the casino inside of the slums, or Lowtown, wherever you want to call it, which is cool. I don't recommend going there right now because there's really nothing worth it, but you can still get access to the shops now. I mean, you can go sell off any gear you got from grinding inside of the Coliseum. But anyways, we meet a new character. This is Like, and she joins us. She's a little over-leveled for us, maybe like a level or 2, and she's pretty cool of an ally. Her weapon's pretty good, and she's going to be with us. She asks for us to go meet with Madame because they're trying to find a couple of missing people. And let's head on over and meet Madame. Also, I lied. Go to the Coliseum. Go to the Coliseum and play the slots. Get 5,000 metal coins, tokens, coins, whatever. And buy the Ninetales. Trust me, it's an overpowered piece of shit weapon for, like, it will be very good. It is really, really good and will carry us through this entire next section. Because for the love of gosh, these enemies that are coming up hit like a truck, and I need the firepower. Going north of the Coliseum and wandering through this forest, we find Madame's building. Her guards instruct us to go through and take the elevator. Upon going up the elevator, we meet Madame, who's a television screen, or she's just displaying herself. She pretty much tells us a little bit lore of the game, saying that the scientists need to be found, and we need to go find them because they're trying to open up a hole to the abyss, which is a no-go, and we don't want that. She also lets us know that she rules this entire city that we live in, which is called Valhalla. It's pretty much the free will of the place. People who don't live in the center come here and have fun and remind themselves of the earthly pleasures, because if you live in the center, then you follow the Messian Lord. She also forces Cerberus into our party, but we'll just dismiss him later. We do get a funny conversation when we're turning back, because since we dismiss Cerberus from our team. I also forgot to mention it because I cut it out during the editing, but we actually had to name another character as a flashback when we were talking to Madame. It was just another female heroine. So we have like, and now we have another character called unlike, which you should not be doing, because you should be liking my videos, because I try my best to be good at videos. Anyways, time to go to the slums and find this scientist. The slums can be a little tricky to find because it's actually hidden behind a building. But once you find it, enter it, follow the path. It's pretty straightforward. Also, I'm going to go neutral, so I'm going to be hitting these heal stations called garages. Every time I heal inside of one, I'll gain 1 point towards neutral. Because I want to stay neutral because the neutral path gives you the most content. Anyways, we find the scientist. He gets murdered by a big bad demon. And this guy, he hurts, and it made me cry. He hurts a lot. He specifically is targeting Like a lot, but she's also hitting like a truck. So it's pretty much a race to keep Like alive. Once we get a good roll, we manage to kill the demon. Upon the death of that demon, we take these 4 weird structures that Hinata used to open up a portal to the abyss. Lucky it looks like the hole closed, so I guess it's okay that takes the dolls. We report back to Madame. She's kind of sad that we dismissed Cerberus, but it's okay. She also says she's also sad too that we didn't bring back Hinata alive. We run into some some Messians. What is this, Dragon Ball Z? They say we're actually from the center and they take us back. Here we learn that we're the Messiah and we have to recall our real name, which is going to be Memi. Upon being returned to the center, we encounter the Pope. He gives us an ID card that allows us to come and go to the center as we please. He says we're good to go, but he tasks us with 2 orders: defeat the Basilisk and to stop the raging King Frost. That's our next goal. And I'm just gonna let you guys know, I spend way too much fucking time exploring this city. It's gigantic. There's a lot of empty rooms. There's really not much here. And if you're going LOL, there's a LOL church you can heal at to start pushing yourself towards that direction. But like I said, I'm staying neutral. So if I want to heal, I need to head all the way to a damn garage. Well, other than that, let's gear up. I recommend stocking up on some disc poisons before we go to fighting the Basilisk. Also, we lose Like, but we gain a new partner called Unlike. She is the complete same. She's a little higher level than Like, and she will pretty much carry us, just like was doing. Also, I kind of recommend it. When you get to the actual town portion of the center, go to the virtual battler and go inside. We'll have another encounter with Steven, who gives us the Demon Analyzer. It's pretty useful if you want to analyze the moveset of enemies, but unlike SMT1, at least on the PS1 version, I don't know about the N64 version, it doesn't show you their item drops, which I guess is okay, I guess. A bunch of good weapons do drop off of enemies, so when you're in a new area, I recommend farming enemies to see what kind of items you can get. I believe item drop is tied to luck, so don't neglect your luck stat. On my way to taking care of the job that the bishop wants us to do by hunting down the Basilisk and King Frost, I come across this cool little minigame called Codebreaker. It's a strategic game. It's kind of like, I forgot what it is. It's like a number guessing game. It tells you hits and miss. It took me a while, but you can get a pretty good weapon from this. I recommend trying to take care of it. Also, you need metal cards for this, and I kind of stocked up at them at the casino once I found out. But yeah, the weapon you get from this is pretty strong. I recommend getting it, and moving on. For our first task, we need to find the Basilisk. You'll encounter him here in between these narrow buildings. He wasn't really that difficult. I've heard stories of where he'll run away from you and poison you and petrify you and everything, but he go down really easily. It didn't take that long at all. I thought he was going to be a lot tougher. Alright, time to go take down King Frost. Alright, inside the building where King Frost is hiding, there are several important NPCs, I'm guessing here, because somebody has a head he's not willing to sell, and there's a door we can't go through at the top of this place. But we're not here for those right now. We're here to beat up King Frost. I just wandered around a little bit and I found him. He's tougher than the Basilisk, but he's not too tough. Like is hitting him for a lot of damage because she can hit 5 to 7 times with her cat 9 tails. And I'm also dealing out some pretty good damage every turn, about 100. He does hurt a little bit, but he's not too much. The scariest thing here is he can freeze you, but other than that, he goes down relatively easily. Not too bad. Also, before I leave, I need to make marks of this room right here. It looks kind of like the same room where we found that one scientist guy in with the dolls. This might be important for later because it seems like it might lead to the abyss. Anyways, not going to mess with it. Let's get back to the bishop. Returning back to the bishop, he congratulates us for a job well done. He also tells us about how there are some betrayers like Mikata and Hanada, and how we need to look for them. But in the middle of the conversation, he gets interrupted by another Messiah who says the factory is kind of going kaput. The livestock are running rampant, and there's a demon called Beetlejuice. I think it's supposed to be like Beetlejuice, but this translation might be a little weird. I'm not too sure. So the bishop asks us to go over there, take care of 2 issues, kill the demon, and stop the rampaging livestock. Let's go. Alrighty, over in the factory area, you come across another gambling area for Codebreaker. Turns out this one has also a weapon as its 2nd place prize. I recommend getting it. It's really good. It's called the Magma Sphere. 110 attack, great hit, great accuracy, and can attack twice. Took a little bit, but I finally got me one. I'm not going to skirt around it. This dungeon took forever to get through. It's like 4 floors. There's black rooms that you got to get through. I use the Mappa spell to be able to see my map in the corner to navigate through here. But anyways, reaching the very bottom, we finally encounter Beetlejuice. I can't say the guy's name. He hurts, but we also hurt him. Takes a little bit, but he does go down. Keep in mind, in the base game, without the hard mode ROM, the ROM hack I'm playing, he only has about like 230 HP. So this is just telling you how strong these bosses are getting with their HP pools. Also, don't pull a me and leave this place immediately thinking that this was all you had to do. I kind of forgot I had a second task for stopping the livestock. It took me a little while to figure it out. You got to go to this random tile and encounter this NPC. And you got to fight like the boss version of the Demonani, I think that's what they're called. A little tough, but not too tough. Anyways, let's return back to the Pope. Oh, sorry, Bishop. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, when you enter the factory area, these random events of earthquakes start happening. Something weird seems to be going on underneath the earth. Anyways, back inside, we don't run into the bishop, but we run into Subcrib. He just chats with us, saying how good of a job we're doing, saving everybody and protecting the city. Nothing too crazy. He asks for us to go to Arcadia, because apparently there's someone there that we need to meet to hopefully maybe trigger some more of our memories. Let's head on over there. There's nothing too exciting here in Arcadia. No encounters, no bosses, no treasures. Just follow this invisible pathway, go into this building, and we talk with comments. Sweet, we get to meet another person we named. Pretty much tells us that this entire place is a simulation and what is the 1,000-year paradise is going to look like when it's eventually complete. Anyways, let's return back to either Subcrib or the Bishop. Upon getting back to the center, you're going to notice that your encounter meter is going, this place is no longer safe. There's demons roaming around the center, and people are freaking out. Anyways, we need to get back to the Bishop and see what the heck is going on. Before getting back to the Bishop, we run into Subscrib. He's telling us all hell's broken loose and he's doing his best to protect the city. And then the Bishop tells us that the false Messiah has appeared and we need to go stop him, because apparently he's the one who released the demons into the center. Alright guys, time to go back to the Colosseum for a good old-fashioned showdown. A sad little thing to note is if you take the tour of all the past heroes for the Colosseum and you go to the hero from the first game, the description says he's crying. It's like the struggle never ends and all of what he went through in the first game didn't really matter. Kind of sad. Because everything's happening again. Making our way up to the Coliseum Arena, we figure out that it's the person waiting for us is Megami, our complete opposite, the anti-messiah. We're ready to go beat his butt, but no, we can't fight him. They throw us back into the maze from the beginning of the game, and we gotta make our way to him. And I'm gonna tell you, this is not a fun boss fight. He kicks my butt over and over and over and over and over. I do have to grind a tiny little bit to get squeeze out another level or two, but after that, we get him. It was a tough fight, but we got him. After all that struggling, he decides to hit us with his most powerful attack, bringing us down to critical HP. And right before he could finish us off, Unlike steps in the way and takes the blow. She is out of the party, and we gotta fight Megami alone. This part's a little tough, a little challenging, but he does go down relatively quickly. Thank God. And now we have a choice to spare him or finish him off. We are going to finish him off, but Unlike decides to step back in with her last few breaths of life to beg us to spare his life. So we do, because we're neutral and we're just trying to stay neutral. Megami runs off, and Unlike sadly passes away. She dies happily, but still though, there goes my companion. And like right on cue, the bishop and all of these followers come in and praise us for defeating the anti-messiah. Something seems a little off, like this was all staged or rehearsed. But anyways, let's just shrug it off and move on. A little boy outside the Coliseum gives us a letter telling us an old man gave it to him. We read the letter and we go meet the old man. He says we need to find Like, and he'll reveal everything to us. But she's being held prisoner in the lowest part of the facility, and we need to take the underground passage to get to her. Oh my golly, what is going on? Making our way through the Valhalla passage, we come across a stalker. He got word from Mikata that we're coming through, so he lets us pass. Upon putting the passcode inside of the door and going down the elevator, we encounter Megami again. Hoo boy, this is a 1v1 fight. He is a little difficult, but I do manage to get him after a couple of tries. His most dangerous attack can literally do half of my HP, which is the scariest thing, but I get him. Upon reaching outside, we are now in the underworld. It's weird. It's like a buried city underneath the center, like they're trying to hide stuff. Anyways, we come across a shrine with a petrified thing inside. Luckily, we have a disc stone in our inventory, so let's be nice and unpetrify this guy. He says he's not at his full strength, and maybe we should turn over later. Maybe he'll be grateful for us and give us a prize. This next part of the dungeon is just gigantic. It's huge. This place is like wandering through the back rooms. Anyways, we run into this little girl named Nidja. She'll join us. We're going to need her here in a moment. Anyways, continue on. We make our way back to the facility and we run into Subscrib. Let's get ready for a rumble. This is when the bosses start ramping up in difficulty. Like, I thought Megami was tough. This was way harder. First off, he has diorama so he can heal himself. He hits like a truck and he can buff himself with Terrakaja. If he starts buffing himself, it's pretty much GG. You can survive maybe one buff, but if he does two or three, it's done. He has a high crit chance. His HP is through the freaking roof. I think he had maybe 5,000 HP, maybe. I don't know. It feels like it. I know in the regular version of the game by looking at a guide, after I did this fight, he only has about like 460. So man, this hard type mode, hard mode ROM hack is it's pumping up. All I can really just say is just pray to RNGesus he doesn't buff himself, you get some good crits going, and you have tons of heals. Because I know I had to spend hours grinding for beads just to make this run even possible. But it took a while, but I got him. Hot dog. Upon his defeat, Subscrib actually comes to a conclusion. Maybe everything that the center doing isn't correct, and maybe his resolve is fading. Anyways, He pretty much just tells us have a good day, and we'll meet again soon. Nausea decides to fuse with Like, and we get Like back in our party. Huzzah! Though she's not leveled up, and we need to train her back up, which is gonna be a pain. Making our way out of the factory, we run into Subscript. He tells us that Valhalla has been swallowed by a band, and apparently the center no longer needs Valhalla. It's completely gone. I'm really starting to like Subscript here. He's literally going on a rampage telling people to revolt against the center, saying that the 1,000-year kingdom is false and only a select few get to go. You actually run into him with a crowd of people, and he pretty much was like, hey, we're going to go stop him. But we need to find a way of our own, because we need to get to Valhalla. Back in the area where we fought King Frost, we make our way to the area that was being blocked by a stalker. He's no longer there, but instead we run into Megami. And after powering up Like a little bit, this is a little bit of a challenging fight, but not as hard as Subscribe was. He can buff himself, but he tends to do a lot less damage. He does have a relatively high HP pool, but with enough items, we can pull through. Dia and Medea aren't enough healing for this, so bead spamming is the way to go. Anyways, Megami down. One very long elevator ride later, 60 floors long, we run again into Megami. But he has a trick up his sleeve. He's not going to fight us. Instead, he has a person throw some infidelity powder on Like, and they run off together. We run into a Noon who says we can fix it. We run into Oberon, the Fairy King, who can break the curse, but we need to chase down the person who started the curse. Hoo boy. Also, if you're like me and you like to explore a lot, you can come across this funny scene of Like trying to make her move on Megami, and he wants nothing to do with this. I just like this scene. But anyways, instead of following the main path where I gotta go chase down Puck, like because a Noon says, hey, he's outside in this old war-down factory, whatever, go chase him down. I actually spend like the next 3.5 hours just exploring and gaining some levels, finding some new items, and it was all worth it. Because, man, I was lacking power, and this thing that I found inside a casino, inside of Roppongi, was worth it. This sword I got can inflict poison, which I think just damages in my return. Can hit 2 to 3 times and has way more attack power. I feel a lot better having a stronger weapon by my side. And a better helmet, too, I got from the casino. Oh boy, well that's enough exploring and everything, and let's get back to the main path and go hunt down Puck. Inside the dungeon we'll run into Puck. Whatever you do, don't stop chasing him. Eventually you'll get him to the end of the dungeon. Every time you encounter him, he'll throw something at you, which will give you a status effect. The worst thing that could happen is just poison. Once you get to the end of the dungeon though, you can corner him, you can mug him for the items or take it. Or pay him. I just take it. It's fine. Anyways, moving on. Let's get back to Oberon. Getting back to Oberon, he breaks the curse for us. Now we can go get our party member back. Yay! Like starts freaking out, thinking that Negmen was trying to do something. But then Anun comes in and throws the infidelity powder on Negmemi. Oh boy, somebody got drugged. Well, at least we got a happy ending. Anyways, time to move on. We come across a big hole and we decide to help a dwarf out. After waiting a very long time, we ended up getting an item. Yeah, it's a pillar. Sweet. These might be important soon. We end up running into a bunch of mutants. One of them asks for us to speak with him. We do. He tells us a bunch of lore about Prince Masakato and how his body was severed and separated. He tasks us with rebuilding Masakato. Yay! More backtracking and yay. Anyways, to find the parts of Masakato, we gotta visit shrines, and there's also a couple of NPCs we found too who potentially might have body parts too. Anyways, let's start hunting them down. The first shrine we decide to go inside of is literally a sliding puzzle maze. It's a little annoying and confusing, but it's easy to get through. The boss, on the other hand, no, not so much. The difficulty is starting to ramp up. Oh boy. Alright, boss time. Baphomet. This guy doesn't hurt very hard, and having a second party member here alleviates some of the damage. We are doing about 200 damage every turn, but man, I just don't know how much health this person has. I tried sealing them so they can't cast any of their magic. Obviously, it didn't hit. We're doing some decent damage, yeah. Like is more or less here just to take hits for me if I need so and do heal. Beads are very handy, and enemies are obviously dropping beads like crazy, so I recommend stocking up. The only scary thing that this boss can do is Tirakaja themselves a couple of times and hit you for maybe like 300, 400 damage. If so, that pretty much instant kills Like and will get you pretty low. Other than that, he's not really much of a threat. It's just very, very tanky. With the death of Baphomet, we get one part of Masakado. Yeah. Let's go get the next one. For the next one, we get the head from the Stalker. I should have haggled with him, but I ended up paying 20,000. That gives me points towards Law Aligned, which does kind of affect me here soon, but I don't realize it. Anyways, moving on for the next part. The next part of Masakado is super simple. We gotta backtrack all the way to the area where we used the disc stone on that one guy. He regained his strength, and he happily gives us the next part of Masakado. Yeah, that's 3 out of 6. Let's move on to the next one. The next part of Masakado was super easy to get. Inside of this shrine that we went into, it's just a maze. Get to the top, find a guy who's lost and wants to get out. We help him get out, and he gives us the piece. Moving on. Alright, the next one's behind a boss fight, so time to beat somebody up. He does hit pretty relatively hard, but we've gained a few levels. Our damage is still on par. It's just, man, these... Okay, I'm enjoying this ROM hack. It's fun and everything, but... Jeez Louise, like, these bosses are tanky. Why am I doing this to myself? Anyways, we just beat him down until he dies. He doesn't have nothing too scary. He does have, again, Tirakaja. He can buff his attack. But he doesn't really use it too much, and I can keep his damage under control with tons of healing. Thank God for beads dropping like freaking candy. That's all I gotta say. If it wasn't for that, then I would be rethinking this challenge really hard. Well, after a little bit, he does go down, and we get the next piece. Next shrine, and last shrine, luckily, is super simple. Just go in, follow the hallways, take a couple of teleporter mazes, get lost for like 30 minutes for some strange reason, and find a little guy, guide him outside, and get the last piece of Masakado. Sweet. After getting all the pieces of Masakado and returning to the old man, he tells us to take it to a fusion room. After fusing all of the pieces of Masakado back together, he doesn't seem to be acting normal. So we take the reassembled body of Masakado back to the old man, who then fuses his soul back into Masakado. Sweet. Anyways, let's go meet them at the sealed cave. Now, this dungeon is 100% optional. You just unlock things that you can fuse later on if you're using demons. But I actually recommend coming here because there's some tough enemies here. Not tough enemies. Also, you get the sun pillar for doing this too. There are some strong enemies here who can drop some good items, like a certain sword from an enemy that was once a boss but is now a common enemy, Baphomet, that is actually a little weaker than our current weapon, but it can hit 2 to 3 times. I recommend getting it. It's pretty good, and trust me, I'm going to be needing all the firepower I can get here soon. Whoo, boy. But yeah, no, this dungeon's optional. You don't need to be here, but I do it anyways just for the funsies. Back in the factory, we find a new dungeon. We go inside and find Subscribe, who says that we need to save all of the people here. Turns out none of them want to leave, and Subscribe thinks that they're all being controlled by the siren song that's being played from the guard tower. Anyways, let's go assault the guard tower. Alright, something I didn't know is that you need at least 10 intelligence to get inside of this dungeon. It's kind of weird how you gotta put points into a stat that the main character doesn't even make use of besides for demon negotiation. The only reason I had 10 points inside of my intelligence stat is because I read that intelligence helps you within your demon negotiation. I've been trying to recruit demons for ages to help with sword fusions, because when I found out that I was law aligned, I was trying to make a weapon called the Soul Blade, which is really powerful. But my luck with recruiting demons is just god-awful. I don't know if this ROM hack makes it harder to recruit demons or something, but I spent hours trying to get some, and I just couldn't. So that's why I was able to get into this dungeon easily. Yeah, I didn't even know you needed 10 intelligence to get in here. Anyways, let's start climbing this tower. The only thing scary about this tower is getting paralyzed. Make sure you have some disc paralysis on you. If not, you're going to be trekking out of this dungeon quite a bit like I did. Whoo, boy. Upon reaching the top floor of the tower, we run across a scrib. He's got his ass kicked by a demon beyond the door, and he can't believe the center is using demons to do this type of stuff. We need to put a stop to this. We're transitioned right to a boss fight, and yes, he is sitting on a fucking toilet. This guy is so inconvenienced with his poop, he's literally going to beat us to death. For some strange reason, this boss fight starts out hard, but it gets really easy. His strongest attack is when he lifts his sword and he hits like a truck. He one-shots like a couple of times, but luckily I decided to stock up on life balms from a Messiah church, which were really handy, and tons of beads. But once he Tirakaja himself, yes, he has Tirakaja, his damage goes down. I don't know if it's a bug or something, but his strongest attack went from hitting like 450 to 20, which is great because this guy's a fucking tank and these bosses are just getting more and more health, and I realize my damage is getting worse and worse. I think I'm going to do maybe a massive grind here soon, or try to fuse a new weapon that's stronger. The only thing I can really think of is just getting my hands on that soul blade, but man, I don't know why I can't recruit demons. I'll keep working on it. Other than that, it takes a very long time to bring him down, and Belphegor, the shitting demon, is dead. And yes, he was literally sitting on a fucking toilet the whole fight. Also, that boss doesn't give you any experience. I just realized that. Okay, so anyways, proceeding forward, we can open up a door that was once previously locked, revealing that a siren's singing, but she refuses to talk with us. We head back outside, don't know where the hell to go. If you talk with some people around, like bars, they give you hints of where to go. We gotta head back to the Grand Church. We need to make our way to the Abyss and rescue somebody and bring them back here. Inside the Grand Church, we can find a new NPC. Also, this is the same dungeon where we fought King Frost and got the head of Masakato. But anyways, he gives us the crying doll. Then we go back up to the 3rd floor and we find a room that was used to try to create a portal to the Abyss. We put them in the correct order. The last one is being the crying doll. Don't use, I forgot which doll it was. But anyways, the crying doll needs to be last. Just don't use the one that was prompted second to last. Anyways, welcome to the Abyss. I actually highly recommend grinding here for a little bit, and you can get some good gear inside the casino inside the town that's a little northeast of us. I really recommend getting the gear. It's really good. Oh my god, it was so good. Took a while to grind the money, but it was pretty good. Also, inside the bar, we can meet a shady-looking guy with blonde hair. I've technically already chatted with him, but it turns out that this guy is Lucifer from the first game, also known as Lucifer. How original. Why is he still going by this silly name? I have no idea. Anyways, he asks for us to find the front entrance to the Abyss next time and not the back entrance. We find a sleeping dragon named Set. He might come important later. South of where we actually were when we first came to the Abyss is the actual person we're looking for. We talked to him, he agrees to come with us. Now we gotta backtrack all the way to the top of the tower back at the factory. Hey, at least the siren's happy. Moving on. Now is a good time as ever to go back to the bottom of the factory and collect the Jupiter Pillar. We're gonna be needing these very soon. Whew, scavenger hunt. With no other leads of what to do, we head back to Holy Town. We run into the TV broadcast. The Messiahs are threatening to close off the air supply to Holy Town. And Zane's like, well, I'm going to go 1v1 the bishop. So we go with him. Yeah. Inside the center, you can actually get this really creepy scene. Like's parents are acting very weird. they just seem to be repeating their words over and over, no matter how much Like tries to talk to her parents. And it's a little emotional, I guess. Expecting a boss fight, but instead the bishop just talks to us. He says the elders want to speak to us on the 22nd floor, and he gives us a passcode. The elders. Well, anyways, let's go. Right before we get to the elders, this big old wall closes and asks us a bunch of moral questions. It will determine and shift your alignment towards chaos, neutral, or law. I managed to get the law one, not the law one, sorry, the neutral one, which kind of made me happy. We find Subscribe. He got Star Wars'd. Oh boy. Now it's time to confront the elders. They reveal themselves to be the archangels Uriel and Raphael. This fight is it's not fun. Whew boy. I kind of forgot which one is which, but anyways, the blue archangel Raphael, there we go. Raphael, he can take damage from sword and gun, but is immune to magic. And this is one thing that I was thinking of, is like, in this ROM hack I'm playing, the enemies obviously are stronger, they have more health, their resistances are different. And I was just back in the back of my mind, I was like, man, what if one of the major story bosses is immune to physical? Because that's literally my major damage output. And it turns out that Uriel is, yeah, he's immune to sword. But after some intensive testing, aka multiple tries, I decided to be like, you know what, I'm going to shoot him. He's vulnerable to gun. Well, anyways, time for the real strategy. I kind of skimmed over it. Raphael can't hurt you too much. Uriel's the one who actually does the beatdown. They both have a decent amount of HP, but once Raphael goes down, this boss fight becomes extremely easy because it's easier to target one enemy than it is two. Yeah, Uriel has Tirakaja, but I can keep his damage in control. Just come into this fight with a lot of reviving items and a lot of healing beads. And just blast away with your guns. I could have brought better guns into this fight that hit multiple times, but I thought my damage was decent. But we're not done yet. The last elder reveals himself to be Michael! Honestly, the last fight was a lot difficult than this. Yeah, he has a ton of HP, but he's vulnerable to sword. His evasion rate's kind of crazy. More or less, every other hit's gonna miss. But honestly, Michael was a fucking joke compared to Raphael and Uriel. Anyways, going on to the third boss fight. Oh yeah, this is a string of boss fights. Ooh boy, it was rough. Now for the big man himself, God Yevon, or whatever you want to call his name. Turns out this isn't really God, but a prelude of his power. The only thing I have to admit here is he doesn't do a lot of damage. I literally auto-battled most of this fight. It got really boring because it's either you hit or you miss. His evasion's through the freaking roof. And during auto-battle, if I see either Like getting down to about 200 HP or the main character getting down to about 400 HP, I would stop the auto-battle and heal up. I still have tons of healing supplies. It's just a long, drawn-out fight. His evasion's just crazy. Our damage is, it's okay. It's just his evasion just makes this fight annoying. But other than that, he doesn't hit too hard, and he goes down. The last elder reveals himself to be Gabriel, and he's like, man, those three were just chumps. Good thing I'm going down the true path. So it turns out he's a good guy, quotations. So back in the control center, Scrib says there's something going on in Holy Town, so we gotta go check it out. Uh-oh, something bad's happening. Back in Holy Town, getting to the Great Church, something does happen. A giant freaking object breaks through the ground. Oh no! Oh boy, let's go back and report. Getting back to Subscrib, he pretty much tells us that it's actually a massive demon from the abyss. We need to find a way to the abyss. The way we did take originally with the pillars is no longer available. Now we gotta go on a fetch quest and getting those pillars. Luckily we've been collecting them throughout the game. Hopefully you guys have been getting them. They're really not that hard to miss because some of them are from the main progression of the game. Now it's time to go get the two side ones. One we can't actually get until this point, which was talking to the elder back down in Roppongi. He wouldn't give it to us till now. And the last one is the most stupidest one, but luckily we have the raw materials to get it. just like with getting into the Watchtower and the Factory, where you had to have an intellect of 10, you need to come to the disco at a full moon with a magic stat of 10. Luckily, there's plenty of instances you'll find throughout the game that can boost your stat. It's just the fact is you gotta put points into your magic stat in order to get them that's required to beat the game. It's kind of pretty cool of seeing you dance your ass off to win the disco competition, and we get the last pillar. Let's make our way to the abyss. Alrighty, with all the pillars in line, we rock around to all of these shrines, or rocks, or whatever. We place the pillars at each one of them, and then once we place all of them, the portal to the abyss finally opens, and let's go down and do what we must do to stop that demon. Doing some exploring, there's a cave that system that we can go into, but we're stopped due to someone saying, no one's allowed to pass through. So I'm like, okay, cool. We find a nice village, a lot of cool people. We get some nice upgrades. That's pretty cool. And let's move on. Alrighty, guys, it's time to admit defeat for this challenge run. I spent a week fighting the next 3 bosses that are coming up, and I could not beat them without having to use demons. They just have so much health, and they just do so much damage on this ROM hack now that I just have no choice but to use demons. The first boss we go up against, sadly, can buff herself, and she has a lot of health, and I can't do anything. My damage is just so low, so we gotta use a couple of demons to buff ourselves. You can only fight her on a new moon, and even then, she'll still kick your butt. It took me many attempts. But yeah, even though I admit defeat with not being able to beat this challenge with only humans, I'm still gonna see it through and see if I can tackle the bosses that are coming up with only humans a couple of times to see if I can do it. If not, then I'll use demons. The whole plan is I summon the demons if I have to use them, buff 2 or 3 times, and then I return them back to my comp, and then don't ever try to use them ever again. Spoiler alert, that's not how it works, because I have to resummon demons in a boss fight coming up. Even though she does kick my booty a couple of times, I do end up bringing her down. Then we head on to the next boss fight, Tiamat. Tiamat was not a fun fight. Again, I had to use demons to get through this boss fight, but I end up bringing her down. She had so much health and she inflicted so much damage. It was just ridiculous. The third and final boss fight is against this guy, a horny demon. Weird. He takes a very long time to bring down because he just has so many status effects. It's just crazy. Again, I have to use demons to get through it. But I'm still going to push through and try to beat this ROM hack. It's getting ridiculous. Alright, now with those 3 ridiculous bosses out of the way, Tiamat and Crowley, both drop a key, which we use in the dungeon where we fought the whip lady a little bit ago. Again, those 3 bosses just stressed me out a lot. The boss fight coming up is up against... Oh, wait, hey, no. That's here in a little bit. We soon get abducted by a Grimory, who takes us to go meet Lucifer. Lucifer pretty much tells us that the god we fought was fake. We defeated the archangels, and he wants us to be on his side. But he also wants to test us. We need to make our way back to his castle. But as soon as we get teleported back, we get taken to Eden. Gabriel says Subscribe wants to talk to us. We say no because I'm not going to join the law side. I'm going for the neutral. So that locks us out of the law side of the ending, and we're going to make our way to get the neutral ending. Well, the neutral. We're going to be neutral. Yes. So with not knowing what to do, we encounter the sleeping dragon Set back down in the abyss. He wakes up and flies away. Back down in the abyss, we encounter Lucifer, but it's not him. It's actually just a fake. The boss that fights us, and yeah, this boss has buffs, debuffs, a bunch of status effects, tons of health. I threw myself at this boss a few times to see if I could do it with humans only, but I just can't. So I just bring out a party of demons to buff myself, debuff the boss a tiny bit. And once I think it's a fair fight, I dismiss my demons and I hammer out the boss until it dies. Lucifer gives us a chance to join him. We say no. Traveling a little south, we need to go wake up the dragon Set, who then breaks through the ceiling to fly off to find his other half. I forgot to mention it, but Lucifer's afraid of Satan coming back, and if Set wakes up, Set will find his other half. Once he finds his other half, he'll become Satan. Going back north to where we just had that boss fight, we fall into Abaddon, and now we're inside of Abaddon. Oh boy. Inside the bowels of Abaddon, we run into Madame. She pretty much just tells us that she was the ruler. We already learned all this stuff, and she's sorry, and then dies. We run into Mikata. I forgot, I haven't seen this. This has gone a long time. He says his time is short. He drops the truth. We already learned it, how we're a clone, and how everybody we've encountered so far, the main characters have been clone. Well, we're not a clone, sorry, but everybody we encountered have been a clone. And we're supposed to be an artificial messiah, but everything's going awry, and yeah, everything's going to shit. Also, it turns out that Like is our mother, and I said she was our girlfriend, so that's a little weird. He tells us that Abaddon's physical form will not appear, aka his heart, so we need to use an item called the Meg Presser to make it appear. And I'm going to let you know, this was not too bad of a fight. He does deal some damage and he can inflict some status elements, but honestly, this wasn't really that bad of a fight. Alrighty, I'm just gonna shotgun this next section. As we make our way towards Lucifer's castle, we got to take out fucking 13 bosses in a row. These bosses can range from annoying to easy, because either they're resistant to sword or they're immune to sword. It's silly. They have way more health than what they should have in the normal version of this game. Again, I'm playing a ROM hack. I would honestly believe they would be all simple, but once you get to their head honcho, it changes. This is my 5th attempt at doing this, and my rule is, if I can't beat the boss in 5 tries, I'm gonna use demons, because I want to beat this game. And I know I'm just suffering, but I want to I want to beat this ROM hack. Anyways, this guy, he inflicts Mudo. He can cast Mudo. He has a bunch of status effects. He has a shit ton of HP. I buff for 3 rounds, and then I get rid of my demons, and I start beating his ass in. It takes a hot minute to actually kill him, but once he's done, he goes down. Also, something that really helped me out, and sadly, I wasn't fucking recording when it happened because I was just grinding. I came across one of those golden chests, and out popped a demon called, not a demon, sorry, a fiend called Alice. And, she managed to drop, I guess it's called the Silky Staff for the female characters. So that's been a pretty nice help. That's why, if you do see any damage numbers, freaking Like is hitting way more than me. So she's been doing pretty good, though she only gets like 1 or 2 attacks in. Alright, so we gotta get this item called Fury's Robes. It'll help hide our alignment since we're neutral. It'll help us get to the final area of the game. Anyways, we literally just steal her clothes while she's bathing from a reused sprite palette from the first game, which is kind of silly, but whatever. Anyways, moving on to the next dungeon. I kind of forgot what this dungeon was called, but it's the last dungeon before we get to Lucifer's castle. It's a straightforward dungeon, just 5 floors. There's pitfall traps, but it's the boss. The boss is what makes this dungeon. He wasn't terribly hard, but he's you'll see in just a second. Yeah, this is the one enemy in the entire franchise that had to get redesigned after this game, Mara. It is exactly what you think it is. We're not going to crack any schlong jokes, but this is going to be a schlong battle up against the schlong monster. It's a little silly. He asks you a couple of questions. Just say no to everything. If not, you're going to be at a disadvantage during the fight. Trust me, it sucks. But yeah, he's a tough cookie. He can deal some damage. He can inflict some status elements. But after enough beating him off, we end up ending him. That's a couple of hard jokes to deal with, I guess. We're finally practically at the end game for this game, I guess. Anyways, Lucifer's castle is dead ahead. We cannot enter it because we're neutral aligned and not chaos aligned. But with the help of Masakato's sword, Masakato's katana, it kills the entry guards or whatever, turns into a crappy sword. But now we can finally go get a stronger weapon. Yay! Going all the way back to the underworld, I kind of forgot what city we got to go to, but it's like Akasaka or something. Akasaka or something. It's the one that has like the monsters. But anyways, there's these dwarves living off to the side. They're blacksmiths. They'll take Masakato's katana. Well, not really, but it's not what it's actually called right now. And he'll forcefully take it from us. And he'll tell us to get out and come back in a couple of days. He kind of lies. It's not a couple of days. It's 12 full fucking moon cycles. And it takes a long time. Yeah, you just gotta be patient. But trust me, it is totally worth it. Before heading back to Lucifer's castle, I decided to take on an optional dungeon. It's a pretty cool throwback area. You run into a bunch of characters from the first game, and we can run into, unlike the lady who, the girl who sacrificed herself to protect us. She says her power is fading, but she's glad that we're still alive, and she wished she could have still been by our side. Honestly, I miss her. I really loved her design. She gives us the rest of her power, and it increases all of our stats by 1. It's actually pretty cool, because even though my strength stats maxed out at 45, it actually goes above the level cap and is now at 46, which is pretty cool. Now it's time for the optional boss for this area. He kind of gets mad at us because he thinks we're working for God and how we're not supposed to be here or whatever. I don't care. Anyways, we start beating his ass, and this guy can hit like a truck. He does like hundreds of damage every attack, but it's funny. He's vulnerable to freeze and happiness. Masakato's katana hits 2 to 3 times for a power of 190 with a chance of freeze. And then since Like has the Shiki staff, I think that's how you call it, it hits 0 to 7 times at like 250 attack power, I think. But she's usually only getting like 1 hit off if I'm even lucky. But it can cause happiness, and he's vulnerable to both of these status effects. After a lot of back and forth, a lot of reviving, and a lot of healing, we do bring him down. It was a hard fight. On my way back to Lucifer's castle, I come across a guy who does a minigame of Russian roulette. It's pretty funny. It's just literally Russian roulette. You pick a demon, he picks a demon. Whoever gets shot dies, and they go to the winner. It was an okay minigame. Alright, so I got both good news and bad news for this section. Good news is we're at the end game. Bad news is I wasn't recording, and I completed 2 bosses before I realized I wasn't recording, and I didn't feel like reverting my save. So the only thing I am not showing now is the Lucifer boss fight and the giant stone dragon boss fight. They weren't difficult that much, but they still did give me some issues. Did manage to get through them, that's for sure. Anyways, we're moving on to the end game now. Also did a bunch of demon fusing, and I made the Hinokagakushi. I don't know how to say it. The Hinokagakushi. It's a strong sword. It's a strong sword. But it doesn't matter. The final dungeon in this game is really what drove me to the end of doing this ROM hack. You'll see you guys here in just a moment. With Fury's robe, we enter Eden. We talk to Subscrib. He tells us some stuff, saying how he found his true purpose. He merges with Set, becoming Satan. And now he says he's going to judge the world. Before we could fight him, he kicks us out of Eden. Steve tells us, oh no, bad stuff is happening. The Ark on top of Millennial flies away, and they're getting ready to nuke the planet from orbit. Steven takes us to Eden, and now we're in the final dungeon. Alright, in the final dungeon known as Eden, it's honestly a very short dungeon. There's 3 bosses that we need to fight before we get to the last 2 bosses of the game on the neutral route, at least to my knowledge, because this is my first time playing the game. I'm just going to say it here. This is where the challenge died. The 3 bosses I have to fight before the last 2 bosses of the game are impossible to defeat. With my rule set of no demons, I'm having a tough time. It's just, can't do it. The first boss heals. It's just ridiculous how much of a truck he is. And even if I bring demons, they were still not easy at all. This is what drove me insane and what prolonged getting this challenge video out for so long. The first boss can cast Mudo and debuffs, and he hits like a truck. Second boss can cast Mudo, debuffs, paralysis, and hits like a truck. And then third boss is the same thing, but even worse. I did get through them, though it took for ages. And by through them, I mean I just went to the normal ROM of the game, not this ROM hack, because I just couldn't do it anymore with these 3 bosses. Alright, final boss time. Subscribe turns into his Satan form and challenges us. No, he doesn't really challenge us to fight. Pretty much declares that we need to be judged. This challenge run is done. I just want to beat the game now. Solo, SMT, no demons, hard mode ROM hack is. I don't think it's possible unless you're way better at SMT2 than me. But this is my first time playing through the game. I really wanted to challenge myself. But we pretty much just curb stomp him. He's not really that hard on this version of the game because it's just base stats, and I'm kind of overpowered for where I'm at this point in the game. Satan goes down, then we take on the final boss of Yevon. Yevon puts up a little bit more of a fight, but he cannot debuff me or do anything crazy status effects, and after about like 20 minutes, he dies. Alright, and if you guys couldn't tell, this last little segment had me really drained. Like, I'm not the best at making videos, and I try my hardest, but this challenge run really drained me. I tried my hardest to keep it around the rules of just humans only, no demons, like I did for the first game, but this ROM hack was a horrible idea. I had fun, though. I really did. I liked the challenge, but the Mudo spam some of the bosses have, the invulnerability to physical and guns, and having to rely on magic on a couple of the bosses when magic got nerfed, I believe, in this ROM hack. I could be wrong. I need to reread the description of the ROM hack, but it was crazy. Will I ever play this game again with this ROM hack? No. Will I ever play this game again, maybe, to reattempt like a no demon run? Maybe. I'm not too sure yet. Anyways, I'm already currently working on my next challenge run. Hope you guys enjoyed, and have a wonderful day.